Well, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Very warm welcome to the Live Lounge. This Monday, Phill Bars, as always, joined by Jarleth and Jack Jobby Garwood. Gentlemen, good evening. Gob, will come to you first. How's the weekend been?
I love you, all right? It's been all right, mate. My Sunday League team won a game yesterday. I could not be more here for it. Fantastic. Turns out I'm better on the sidelines than I am on the pitch. I've been injured for 9 weeks, and we've been getting better and better. So, just the way that life falls.
And Jar, good weekend for you?
Yeah, not too bad, Philip. Not too bad. It's been. I was with my wonderful girlfriend on Saturday watching some hurling, which was great stuff. Great game of hurling to watch, and then also. As well today, I've just actually literally in the last 15 minutes just come back from the pub, which I can't believe I've actually an indoor pub, Barzy, an indoor pub.
Oi, things are on the change.
I know, it's great, honestly. So it's great to be back. It's great to be able to actually get out.
One loose opinion from you tonight, and it's being blamed on those ciders, mate.
Do you know what? I've only had the one because I was driving. I've only had the one, so I was driving. So anybody who says otherwise is talking nonsense. But then again, no, that's literally what the next 2 hours is going to be. Just us talking nonsense.
I was going to say, we will talk darting nonsense for a few hours. Welcome along to the chat room. Nice and busy, as always. Saying hello to all the regulars. Missy is in. Kieran, welcome along. Adam from the States, how you doing? Sean McDonald in, as always. He dropped me a message in the week. He said he was listening last week and his shopping took four times longer than what it should because he had us on his headphones whilst walking around his local supermarket. Legends.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Chris is in. Paddy, how are you doing? Loads in as well. Lee is in as well. Come and say hello in the chat room. Don't be shy. As always, lots to talk about. It's been a busy week in darting terms, gents.
Malachi makes a very good point, though. Most important question, was Chilwell's goal offside or onside? Definitely offside. 100%. I love football. VAR can stay forever with that decision. But the Leicester.
To be fair, I didn't watch it. I watched the last 5 minutes or something.
It was great. Fantastic to see. Great to see so many. Great to see
so many fans back
in as well. 21,000 fans.
You missed the first half. You missed nothing.
Yeah, 21,000 fans though in at Wembley. Incredible.
Yeah, it was good. That emotion. Forget if you're a Leicester fan, Chelsea fan, or whatever. What it meant to those fans at the end and the raw emotion you saw. That is sport, and that is why sport is nothing without fans. Whether that's football, darts, egg chasing, you name it.
Egg chasing. Daniel says, been away to Yorkshire for the weekend, come back today. Any of you three guys heard of Bridlington? Yes. Who's from Bridlington?
Dartsman's played up at Spa.
Absolutely. So Bridlington, what a place that is. So there we go. So yeah, it's all great to be with you on a Monday night. Very, very busy show. Well, the boys just share around the links that we put up on socials. If you want to share them as well, find us online darts on anyone on Facebook or Twitter. Can't do Instagram because then you'll see that I'm on my phone and that's not okay. But tonight, very, very busy live lounge. Premier League preview. We are back with fans this time next week, and I am buzzing for it. We're going to go through the 5 nights. We've already told you we think it's going to finish top 4. Have our opinions changed ever since we were last here? We'll have a look. We've also got a big reaction to a big announcement today from the World Seniors Darts. We know where we're going to be heading in 2022. Mad Darts and lots of stuff for amateur darts is coming back as well. And as always, everybody, your questions later on this evening. Question time will return. We will try and answer as many questions as we can. All that coming up in the next hour and 55 minutes. It's going to be a busy old show.
Yeah, it is. Again, before we crack on, Henry's in as always. Hope you're doing well, mate. Daniel, Owen, welcome along, everyone. Peter, Raven Effect, Simon, Daniel as well. It's all good. Literally, we're just sharing around the last few bits and bobs. But yeah, just a huge week in darts gone. I know in our WhatsApp chat we were like, so much to get through this week.
Yeah, we keep saying we're going to do certain things when we clear decks as such, and then more news just drops on us constantly. It's fantastic though. Absolutely cannot complain. Keeps us busy. Keeps things churning out. The excitement, the pre-event excitement, especially for the World Seniors. My gosh, it is just going through the roof.
Yeah, look, and I'll probably get in trouble for saying this. Someone will tell me off at Milton Keynes.
Go on, Buzzy.
But there's more excitement and more buzz around this than there is the last 5 days of the Premier League. Don't care what anyone says.
Yeah.
And don't forget this as well.
And I think
next Saturday evening, don't forget, 22nd of May, a certain live league returns as well, Barzi.
Yes, it does. Fingers crossed. We'll have some news on that tomorrow. Just literally waiting on a few bits to be dotted and done that. But when it comes out, when I say huge news, I'm not joking you. It is huge.
I'll be honest with you, everybody, those watchers and listeners, right? Barzi told us the plans when we were down at our little briefing meeting that we went down to a couple of weeks ago. And it is genuinely huge. Huge news. We cannot wait to tell you it. So stick around for that tomorrow across the socials as well. Hello to Neil from Canada as well. What time is it there? It's either 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Or maybe midday if you're on the West Coast. But hello there. As you say, we've got a worldwide audience in here now at the moment. And Raven Effect, get Bob Anderson walking on a horse at the tavern. I don't know if we can get away with that this time round. It'd be great, though, if we could.
Health and safety's got a little bit tighter since that was done.
Still brilliant, though, to see.
Yeah.
We'll manage something. We'll get a rocking horse or something. It'll just get him to plough in on a hobby horse. Just to take the piss.
Yeah, Owen, just a quick one before we dive in what you said there. Someone asked a question on social or on Twitter the other day. Do you think the PDC have missed the trick by not making the last 5 nights bank holiday Monday? I don't think the PDC would have an awful lot to say, mate. Sky would have dictated when they had it, and unfortunately, Bank Holiday Monday is playoff football, dominated by the playoffs.
Me too. Yeah.
Not that, but the venue's been used for other events as well. The World Cup of Pool was in MK recently, last week. That finished on Sunday at the weekend. So, look, Matchroom have had that venue pretty much all the way through, but they've divided it up across various different outlets and used it as and how they need it. Snooker's dived in and out of events. They've used it for the pool. No doubt ping pong and that will pick up and start using events as well. So, yeah. Look, I just think the way the Premier League has gone this year, the way they've done it in those little blocks, it's hard to sustain that excitement because you get yourself up for it by night 2 or night 3 of a block and you think, yes, here we go. We're back-to-back every night. When it's a weekly thing, I think you can start building it up and actually we're not excited 4 weeks out of the final block of the Premier League. We're only really excited for the last 2-3 nights when you can start seeing it unfold before finals night. So 4 in the last block, when there's still a lot to play for, we're going to sit here and try and predict what's going to happen, and then everything is going to go completely against us on night 1, and it completely changes again. And every single podcast we've done as a Premier League Daily this year, we've sat there and we've spoken, and tomorrow night we hope to know a bit more about what's going to happen at Judgment Night that wasn't Judgment Night, or who's going to make the top 4 every time we come on, and we have to use the same line the following day because we know nothing. So it's hard to sustain that excitement when there's not one clear thing unfolding.
Yeah, completely agree. Wayne's in from Massachusetts. Welcome along. Niall's in, the werewolf as well. Let's dive straight in, gents.
Yeah, just going to say very quickly. People are talking about whether the World Seniors will be televised. Yes, it will. We just cannot tell you where yet, because discussions are still ongoing. But we can safely say that numerous companies are discussing it, but we can't tell you which ones, and we can't tell you where yet. That's essentially what we can. That's all we can say. Very, very sorry.
but it will be. Don't worry about that. First up, before we dive into the action, PDC released this today, ticket information. The
Huge.
Thursday and the Friday is sold out, and there is only limited availability for the other three. Huge upturn in tickets for this, outstanding from everyone involved, gents. It's going to be buzzing.
That first Monday, this time next week, is going to be incredible. And the big thing is as well is that if anybody in here is like me, who works for the emergency services and have got themselves a blue light card, you can go and get yourself a couple of tickets for free for the next 3 nights, for those May the 24th to 26th. So I'd say go and grab them if you're anywhere near the MK area. Get to go and watch top quality darts free of charge. You can't beat that. So if you are around, have a look at it, go and do it.
Completely agree and cannot wait to have the fans back. But from there, sorry, it's a bit of an old graphic, but I think Lou or Jimmy must have been busy. Thank you very much, guys. But we've still got the old updated one with the 3 nights on before the last block on as well. But 4 nights to get yourself into the playoffs, gents. And we're going to have a look who we think the big games that could decide it, and have our minds been changed, swayed over the weekend. But first of all, night 13, this is huge on all effects, because there are a couple of games here that will either bust out things or plunge players fearing, scrambling for points. I think that's a fair one, Gob.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, I like how you're teeing this up as a, both of you are, by the way, as a what did we say last time versus what we're going to say this time. I have no clue what I said last time, so I'm just going to wing it, guess. Probably someone called me out on social media in a week going, you said this one week, you said this the next week, and be happy with it. That's how this works. I haven't got my top 4 written on a list in front of me, unfortunately. I think Gary snuck in there somehow.
Yeah,
the more I evaluate that, I'm not convinced. That might be the change that I make. The more I evaluate that, I'm not necessarily convinced. We know Gary likes to play in blocks. We know that he likes to just be at an event where he has to play darts. No doubt he will have had to have a practice in the last week or so, in the gap between the Premier League, but he is not the biggest practicer anymore. He doesn't like to do it. He'd rather be elsewhere doing whatever else. And I think that makes it difficult for him to come into this final block and hit the ground running. And the problem is he has to hit the ground running. He has to pick up at least 6, if not 7 points from these 8 games. And opening night against Johnny Clayton is arguably one of the biggest, because he is one of the people he's going to be fighting for that spot with. And I'm just not convinced. And if it goes wrong on opening night, Gary's in trouble.
I think the only good thing about that particular fixture is that Johnny Clayton isn't a big practicer at home either. So if you're going to play Johnny, I think playing him on the Monday night is potentially a good thing for Ando.
The biggest game, I think, at that point, though, is second on. That's the biggest game of the night. 100%. The biggest game of the night is second on, Jose de Sousa versus Dimitri van den Berg. If Jose wins that game, Dimitri's in a world of trouble. If Dimmy wins that game, Jose will probably not qualify for the top 4. Because yes, he's got Johnny Clayton around him, which is obviously a big game the next day, but he's then got to face the current the rest of the top 2. He's got to face he's got to face Nathan Aspinall on Thursday night, and on the Wednesday night he's got to face MVG. So off the back of that, it's a huge game. It will determine whether Jose de Sousa qualifies in the top 4 or not that game. And if Dimmy wins that, then we are in for. Then Dimmy will pull away, and I think that will be that. I think he will be there on Judgment Night. No, on Judgment Night. Sorry, on Playoff Night. Excuse me.
It's also interesting, though, because a draw doesn't do either player any good either. This is why this one's so intriguing. Sometimes a draw is a good result for both players. This one, it's not. Any result has a huge bearing on the league table.
But it's not the end of the world. Looking at Gary Johnny, Gary doesn't want to draw, but he'd take it over not losing. Like I said, I think Gary needs 6 or 7 points. And okay,
I think
not winning on the first night means you've got work to do for the other 3, minimum. But he can get away with a draw in there, and doing that to Johnny Clayton on opening night, just to settle in when we know he gets better throughout the night, would not be the worst case for Gary Anderson. Losing comfortably, big trouble. Losing 7-5, 8-6, trouble.
Yeah, but then
Could
you
still
you
possibly
think about
overcome
it.
it with a big swing of results going in his favour. But anything else,
Yeah, but you think about it.
trouble.
Yeah, with Gando though, we always say 19 points is the magic marker. 19 points normally gets you in. Gando cannot afford to lose a single game, otherwise he ain't going to be picking up. He won't be picking up 19 points. The most he can pick up is 20. So if you think about it, he needs 3 wins and a draw to make the magic 19. Now it obviously helps if he beats Johnny and then if Dimmy beats Jose, because then they're all on 14 points, and then they're all basically in a bit of a free for all. Let's be frank about it. It's basically best 3 out. Best who can get the most wins out of 3 games over the top. And if you think, and obviously that is a huge game, and you think about it as well, because Johnny and Jose, they can only the most they can pick up really is 20 points 21 points because they've got to play each other. So the most they can pick up is 21.
Yeah, look, I think it's interesting, but there's also another one in there. If MVG beats Nathan Aspinall, are we saying it's done at the top?
Yeah, MVG finishes top if he beats Aspinall.
Yeah, not even close.
Plays Peter Wright on final night as well. I was more adamant the last couple of weeks that Jimmy is in more trouble than Nathan Aspinall. I've changed my mind on that as well. Look, I'm still not sold on the action. I still think there are times when it is going to break down a little bit. He's pushing darts and going quicker and that sort of thing, and he's setting it solid without the pendulum motion and that sort of thing. But just concerned for us that he can get dragged into these dogfights constantly. And if he loses to Michael, he's then got to go and battle for 3 nights in a row.
Yeah. Yeah, look, night 13 is so intriguing. It is unreal. But we're not going to sit on the fence. How do these big games go down on night 1 of Block 4, gentlemen?
Let's just get out our magic crystal balls that are shattered into a million pieces and pluck something out of it.
All right. Okay. I don't mind going. as normal. Make the ball predictions. Gary beats Johnny. Dimmy beats Jose. MVG beats Aspinall. James Wade beats Snakey. Why not? That there basically makes the race for. It's basically 2 spots then they're racing for at that time.
For you, Gob.
I want it to stay open. I want it to stay open for longer. So I'm going for the thing that gives us the most to talk about. And that's Gary beating Johnny Clayton, Jose de Souza beating Dimitri Van der Berg. I still think Jose finishes top 4 comfortably, by the way. I know you guys aren't sold, and he does have a very, very tough run-in, but his absolute scoring power has been unreal. And I think that opening block was his little wobble. That opening block was his little wobble.
God, no, it's not that though. The amount of times there he's been there and scoring well, but he's pissed about on his doubles, just going for stupid shots. We come back to the James Wade game. That was how are you when you're 6-2 up and you are absolutely smashing it to go 7-2 up. You could have easily won that game. Should have easily won that game. You don't.
Should have.
You come back to
you put him in already.
You think about the game,
but it's a learning curve. But at the same time, there have been times in this Premier League where he's been very, very switched on. He has been very good.
Think about that game against Nathan Aspinall. Hits a 9. He's the most 180s ever in a game, and he still only draws because he can't get the job done. That's my biggest worry with Jose. My biggest worry is that I don't know.
Do you know how many players hit a 9 and actually go on to win their match?
Yeah, it's low.
Well, Johnny Clayton did. Didn't he?
Look at the last 20 televised 9 darters and look how many of them actually go on to win the match at the same time. Aside from Van Gerwen, the percentage will be very, very low. I assure you.
Didn't Johnny do it against Jose the previous night? I'm sure he did. So yeah, I just think look, he should already be there. He should be. Let's be frank about it. Jose de Sousa should be fighting Michael Van Gerwen for top spot. He should be fighting for top spot. And he ain't at this moment in time.
It's his debut season, though. I think this is sort of what we expected from him. Well, it's not what we expected from Jose. A lot of people had Jose to potentially be relegated. He has outdone that. And let's be honest, if he'd settled in and got the points that he deserved in the opening block, he'd be absolutely flying right now. He looked like he was going to do a Mensur Suljovic. Finally picked up a win that he deserved and has not really looked back since, apart from 2 errors, like you said. The Aspinall game where he hit the most 180s, couldn't get over the line, and slipping against James Wade. Other than that, I think he's had a very, very solid Premier League. And I think he's...
I'm not saying he's not had a solid Premier League. I'm just saying that he's missed these... I'm not saying he's not had a solid Premier League. I'm just saying that, realistically, he should be fighting MVG for top spot. Sorry.
Should.
Sorry,
completely agree. But I still think he's going to earn more chances. He's going to earn chances in every game. His scoring power is that heavy. Even against this field, he is going to earn opportunities to win legs at crucial times. I'm still not sold, because I think he's had his chance, and I don't know if he's blown it, but he's had his chance. This is we always come back to it though. This is the big game. If he beats Dimmy, then he's there for me. I think he'll be there or thereabouts, because I think he'll probably beat Clayton, but I think he'll just about get over the line somehow. Maybe beating Nathan Aspinall, I don't know. But if he doesn't beat Dimmy, no. I just can't see it. Well, I think he does.
I'm Gary.
Which is what I was saying. Michael beats Nathan.
Gary wins.
And I too think Wadey wins.
Gary win. Draw. Michael win. Spoiler. Peter Wright turns up and wins.
Too early in the week for that to happen.
If he does that,
it's not, because
I think
my theory is that James hasn't picked the dart up either. James gets better, and I think Snakey might catch him cold.
I do think Snakey is going to play the role of the spoiler at some point, but I just don't think it's going to be overnight, and that's not because it's against James. He will tinker going into the opening night.
Interesting.
He will come on stage with something ridiculous. He will not open that night with the Elements or the World Championship darts.
But I just think that I don't think James will have picked him up at home. He'll get caught cold, and Snakey will beat James Wade. Moving on. Night 2, Wade Aspinall, Clayton de Souza, El Clasico, Wright versus Dimitri. On paper, one game stands out by a million miles because of who it is.
Yeah. If Gary wins against Johnny Clayton, then the game could be very much more intriguing.
Yeah.
Because if Clayton and de Souza
Gary
play
loses
each other
the night before, virtually meaningless. Still an outside chance, depending on the way the points are picked up against each other. Especially if for the next 4 nights we see lots of draws. If people are picking up 1 point instead of 2, that number could sneak down from 19 potentially.
Yeah, I know. I agree. But again, looking at these, Gob, not this night doesn't have such a big effect on the table because of who's playing who. The one that does is Johnny against Jose.
Massive. And like I just said, that again, so much on that game depends on what happens the night before. If Johnny takes a towel in from Gary, he is fighting massively. If Jose loses to Dimmy, he's fighting. He's got to be fighting. If he beats Dimmy, cruising. It's just so much hangs on what happens the night before. And actually, the game that, despite all of this, that final game is the one I've got my eye on, because I just said I think Peter Wright will play the role of the spoiler, and I think there are 2 opportunities for him to do that. One of them is night 14.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's against Dimmy, because he was his house guest, because he helped him so much and built him up, Peter will still want to prove that after all of that, I'm still the master. A bit like Taylor and Lewis used to be. I know they don't practice every night together and Dimmy's gone elsewhere, but for that period of time, there's that respect between them. And every time Phill Taylor and Eddie Lewis went up on a board or went up on a stage against each other, they wanted to smash each other to prove that one had got the better over the other. This game will be very similar.
I agree.
So I've just been looking at the stats, right? So since the format that we know in the Premier League has changed in 2013, there's only ever been 2 years that 19 points was just enough to get you in. Anything less than 19 points was enough to get you in. 2013, when Wadey got in with 17 points, and 2017, when Gando got in with 18 points. All the rest of the times, you've had to have 19 points to get into the top four. I think you're going to have to need. I think you are. I think
18 will be enough this time around.
I don't know.
I'm not saying it's definitely, but I personally, just looking at how the results are going to go, I think 18 will get you in just.
Possibly. I think 18 and a good leg difference might sneak you in, depending on how these battles against each other go. If one or two players come through for these 4 nights and absolutely shine, Johnny Clayton goes perfect, or Jose goes perfect, or Gary goes perfect, the knock-on effect of them doing those things remove points possible from other people in the field. The only thing that I can think, given how tight it is at the minute, and we're suggesting this, the only thing that I can think that favours what Jar's saying at the minute is that Glenn Durrant didn't pick up any points whatsoever. If he picked up a couple here and there and taken points off people early, the number of points available to the rest of the field drops.
Yeah.
And the worry is that Peter Wright turns up and isn't competitive for this week either. Because if he does the same and effectively becomes a happy birthday, who's not played me yet in the second phase, some of this is completely irrelevant.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Do we see any big shocks on night 14 that will put the cat amongst the pigeons?
If you want me to be honest, I think Wadey beats Aspinall.
It keeps it
I
interesting.
think that this is a big. Yeah, I think this is a big week for Wadey. I think this is a big week for Aspinall. I still think he's going to do just about do enough to get in. It's not going to be very pretty, but I think it's going to be just about getting in. But I think Nathan, I would have a scare because I think that James Wade will beat Nathan Aspinall.
If he
How does the big one go?
Oh, MVG wins it.
No, mate, Clayton De Souza, that's the big one. In terms of the table.
I think Clayton wins. Actually, do you know what? I think that Clayton wins, and I've got a funny suspicion that I think Gary Anderson might beat Michael Van Gerwen. I've got a sneaking suspicion. I know the record's horrendous, but the records are there to be changed. And I've got a sneaking suspicion, actually, more and more I think about this, that Gary Anderson beats Michael Van Gerwen.
I don't know. This is the most difficult block to predict so far in this Premier League. Because there's been that big gap, because we've seen the ups and downs of every single one of these players, and because it's go time. And actually, we have not mentioned the fact how are these players going to react to the fans. I know we've spoken about it previously on last week's show or the show the week before, etc. But fans are back in for these games. And if Gary needs that extra little boost to get over the line against Michael, after sneaking a win against Johnny the night before to keep his hopes alive, he's capable of it.
For me, Gary's whole Premier League, if he loses to Dimitri, my fear is he's done and the car's running.
What?
Do you
So
mean
do you mean Clayton?
No, for you, we're talking about. You said that Gary beats Michael. If Johnny beats Gary on opening night, that pretty much rules Gary out. So
Yeah,
no,
then,
that's what we're confused about.
so then
that's what
what's
we
the
were confused.
motivation level like? What's the motivation levels then like for Gary, knowing that it's almost impossible?
Thing is that Gary, right? Gary will always raise his game normally against Michael Van Gerwen anyway. Normally. Because the two of them normally bring the best out of each other. The rest of the time, I agree with you. Car's already running. You'd probably go back to Burnham on Sea and just maybe just come in. No, can't do that because obviously it's tested. If it was in normal circumstances, he would do. He'd head down, he'd head home, and then just drive up and drive back again. But the rest of it, I don't know. Is the God's honest truth. I don't know. I think that Gary beats Johnny because this is why I think he's going to make the top four. Because I think he beats Johnny, which obviously takes points off the Fennett, and then he goes and beats MVG, which moves him on to 16 points, which is going to be big for him, especially because I think that Clayton beats Jose, and both of them are now on 16 points as well. Asp, though, has to win against James Wade. If he doesn't win that game, and I don't think he will, then he's in huge trouble.
Yeah. So, moving on. Night 15. Now it gets interesting. Now it's tight. They've had 2 nights of fans, and it's all to play for. Some huge, huge games here again. Especially the last 2, potentially.
Go time, isn't it? This is the second opportunity that I see for Peter Wright to be the spoiler. If he's going to do it, it's going to be on night 14 or night 15. And Johnny Clayton absolutely cannot afford to let it happen, especially after the previous 2 nights we've just predicted for him. If he loses to Gary, if Jose gets the better of him. Trouble for the Ferret. The intriguing one for me here is game number 2, actually. Because if what Jar says has come true, and what we think could happen, if Wadey beats Snakey opening night and then does a job on Nathan Aspinall first on night 14, this game against Dimmy is massive. Dimmy will be needing the points to pretty much wrap up a top 4 spot. James needs the points to go perfect, because if James has won those 2 previous games and the other ones go somewhere how we think they may go, there will be a gap opening for that 4th spot.
Yeah.
Yes.
If Wadey wins back-to-back,
game.
he's on 15 points.
Biggest game, though.
That puts him right in the mixer.
Do we agree? Do we agree that game number 3 is the biggest game? That is huge. Gary Anderson against Nathan Aspinall. The winner of that.
No, it depends.
The winner of that.
It depends.
Well,
on paper, yes. Yeah. But if Gary loses on his first 2, or doesn't
make a blind bit of difference,
some point, and it's not.
So then, in that case, then the big game will be number 4, Jose against MVG.
Yeah.
Because
you're right. Potentially, game 3 could be huge, but it's a could with a big question mark next to it.
He's got to win both games.
Also has
simple
the
as
could
that.
have meaning absolutely nothing. No matter what happens, Johnny versus MVG, Jose versus MVG on the penultimate night is going to mean something.
Yeah. Jose will have to try, in my opinion, Jose will be fighting to try and stay in the top 4 race.
Yeah. Jock, I know you had it up there. Over the last 4 or 5 years, how many points have you needed to top the table?
Normally, Dozer topped it with 20, stand by 21 last year. That, I think, was the least amount of points that you've had to top it in a while. because MVG's normally topped it with about 23, 24 points. It was 23 in 2019 for MVG when he just beat Cross to it. Obviously, when Cross was normally there, 23. So normally around the 23 mark is what you're normally going to get. So MVG could be wanting these points. Say, for instance, like everything else. But I think he could be. I think he could even be finished top already by this point. If he wins that game, then he will definitely be to the top points.
That was part of my reasoning, because if he wins his opening 2, he's already on 21, and the others are all going to take points off each other.
Yep. So absolutely, Van Gerwen should be top. It'll either be confirmed on Tuesday or Wednesday that MVG will be finishing top of the 2021 Premier League. Imagine those people that said he wouldn't finish top 4.
Could you imagine all those people that laughed at me when I said that? And they were like, what are you basing that on? Just saying, lads.
Yeah.
I got absolutely trounced for saying that.
You got pummeled on this show.
I did. But all of a sudden, that's not looking too bad, is it?
Listen to me.
Broken clock is right twice a day, Philip.
Lee in the chat room, by the way, that's not Lee, that's Sean Fisher. I hope you're doing well, buddy.
Wolf in as well. I've seen the Wolf in. Niall Cullerton as well.
So, night 16. Before we come to predictions, how many of these games are going to mean something, do we think?
1. Potentially.
2.
Nathan Aspel against Jose de Sousa. Winner of that will be in the Premier League playoffs. Nah. Dimmy will already be there. And Clayton will be gone.
But Johnny might need the points to cling on to what Jose is.
Nathan versus Jose will be battle for the final top 4 spot, I think.
Hang on, what have you predicted so far? So you've got.
I've got
that one.
MVG. Nothing's changed, by the way. I've got nothing. So I've got MVG, Dimmy. MVG finishes top, and then the 3 that will make up second, third, and fourth. Don't ask me where they're going to finish. But the second, second place will be Dimmy, third place will be Nathan Just, and fourth will be Gando. So I've got Gando getting 7 points out of his 8. I think he might get a draw against MVG and then win the rest of them. Nathan will just about squeak in. Don't ask me how, but I think he's
how
just
about. How many points are you giving Clayton? Does he beat Jose?
No.
Does he? We glossed over him playing Peter Wright. So
yes, that'll be 2 points
from where he is. So that will put him on 17. So that's going to mean something against Dimitri too. Those 2 games are massive.
Well, I think Dimmy's going to be already on 19 points by then, so I think he'll be there or thereabouts. He'll beat Peter Wright, and he'll beat.
But Johnny
Jose.
with a win. Johnny
could
with
go
a win
to 19.
might have
Yes,
potential
you are right.
with leg
Yes, you are
difference
correct.
to go up to where he needs to be, is what I'm saying. So it might not be massive for both, but also at the same time, if you're Dimitri or whoever, you're playing for position here. If we think MVG is going to walk away with it for the next 4 nights, you want to be comfortably sitting in second position. You don't want to be losing out. Do you remember last year when Nathan stuck in last minute? Or whoever it was, and they jumped to 3rd and it pushed, was it Gary to 4th?
No,
it was
Gary missed 3rd. Gary did go 4th.
Nothing. Yeah. I can't remember which way around it was, but like, if MVG is going to return to just kicking ass for these 4 nights and sustain a level of performance and suddenly in the words of Cornelius Fudge, declare himself back, you don't want to play him in the semi-final.
No, I don't disagree with you. Don't disagree with you, but I think Dimmy finishes second, so happy days for him.
Right, I just totted up
I think
the points here.
I'm
trying to work out
how
he's
going to get. Yeah. Do you know what? I think he's going to get 21 points. I do, Dimmy, at this moment in time, because I think he'll beat Jose, he'll beat Peter Wright, and then he'll beat Wadey. So there's 21 points, bang on the button straight away for him. So for him, it won't make a blind bit of difference. I don't think anybody else is going to get anywhere close to that. I don't think Nathan's going to get close to that.
I've made the mistake for the last 2 years of predicting names going in top 4 without working out what I think is going to happen from the games, and then getting to the last night and realising that I need Glenn Durrant to beat Marco van Gerwen, for instance, in this Premier League for the outcome to come out with what I need, and it's just not going to happen.
Loads of people, by the way, in the chat room giving their top 4s now. Keep them going, guys. We are seeing them. We'll go through them a little bit later on once we've all worked it out ourselves. But MVG will finish top. Dimmy second. Do you know what? I'm going to go Gando. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to say it. I'll say Gando finishes third, and Nathan will just squeak in fourth on leg difference. That too. That both of them will somehow find a way to get 19 points. I think he beats Jose.
Right.
I don't know how he'll get that though. Maybe he might. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Wadey won't beat him. Then so that'll be the 2 wins he'll get into 19 points because he ain't beating Garrity, he ain't beating MVG.
I think my top 4 is going to be different to all of yours.
Okay.
I've got Michael winning it.
Shock.
I've got Dimitri second on 21 points. I've got Johnny Clayton third on 20 points. And I've got Nathan Aspinall squeaking in on 18 points.
I think Gando will get 19. I think he'll get a point against MVG. So I think the rest of the time, I think he'll win. If you like I say, it could all go completely out the wrong. And out the window.
Oh, yeah.
If Clayton beats Gando, then you're right. The car's on the maker.
I've gone draw in that first game. I think Anderson Clayton draw on opening night.
See, I think Gando has to win that. Gando's got to
get
win
through.
That to make contention.
He does. That's why I've got
He's
him missing out. I've got Gary on 17 points. He just misses out. So really good predictions, guys. Well, God works his out. Keep them coming. Absolutely superb tonight, everyone.
Wadey coming in. Sam going with Wadey on 18 points to finish it off. Saying that there's no space at the table for Dimmy and for Asp. Huge.
That would be
huge
so James Wade. James Wade.
100%. If Wadey was to come back and win all 4 games, that would be typical Wading coming in. Tell you what, though.
I may have just given him that.
Oh, God. Here's a question for you, though, Barzy. If Nathan drops out the top 4, which is entirely conceivable, but if Nathan drops out the top 4 now, how much of a setback is that for him? Especially for being top of the league for a number of nights, been in there or thereabouts. I think it's a massive setback for Nathan Aspinall if he drops out the top 4.
Psychologically, it could be huge because last year he scrapped and just about pulled himself into it. But I think to fall out could have the opposite effect this year. especially as well. Next time he gets to put it right on TV is in a tournament that he has an absolute shocking record as well. The match play is not a happy hunting ground for Nathan Aspinall.
He's never made it past the first round in the 2 appearances that he's been there.
Yeah.
Although last year, to be fair to him, he did lose to the eventual winner. So there's a bit of something for everybody. Be like the Rob Cross of the match play. Although I can't remember who he lost to. Was it? Who did he lose to on opening night in 2019? I was there for that. Did he lose to? Talk amongst yourselves, everybody. Gob, have you got your top 4 yet?
Yeah, this is mad.
You done Rachel Riley
MVG
calculations there?
Where's Merv? It was Mervyn King, by the way, is who he lost to in 2019. Carry on.
I actually have done Rachel Riley. I haven't looked at leg difference yet, but it could be absolutely massive. Because I have a Marco Van Gerwen cruising to 24 points. I think he picks up 7 points in this phase. I think Gary pinches a draw against him, but then Gary fluffs his lines the following night. I've given, from the remaining matches, I have Johnny Clayton picking up 4 points, Jose de Souza picking up 4 points, Nathan Aspinall picking up 4 points, Gary Anderson picking up 3 points. I think he loses to Nathan and doesn't bother on the final night. Dimitri picking up 4 points, MVG picking up 4 points. And I know he's my boy. But if he starts brightly on opening night, I've got him getting all 8, you know. Dimmy is the only wobble in there. Because I think Gary could be done by the time they play final night. I can see Wadey getting to 19 points. Which means I've got MVG first on 24. I then have James Wade, Nathan Aspinall, and Dimitri van den Berg all finishing on 19 points. And I have Johnny Clayton and Jose de Souza on 18 points, both just missing out. Gary finishes with 15. Snakey finishes on the 9 he's on already.
We've massively overcomplicated this, boys.
Hugely.
And then on opening night,
hugely.
And then opening night we get
Opening night
draw
goes to
win, and Peter Wright against James Wade, and it's all gone.
All off at Haydock then. It's all off at Haydock then. All off at Haydock.
But
look, you asked some predictions. I've looked at the games, looked at the form, and that's the way I see it falling. The difficult game for James Wade in the 4 nights is Dimitri van den Berg. The issue with James Wade is starting slow in these blocks, and he has Peter Wright opening night, so he can afford to start slowish. Not ridiculously slow, but he can afford to start slow-ish if the shoulder injury is still affecting Peter Wright and he tinkers about with sets of darts and rocks up with something stupid and is changing after 3 legs. And after that, he has a platform to go on.
The big thing for Nathan Aspinall that we are forgetting some of it though, is obviously how big the fans that will be there will give him that much of a boost. He's always wants the fans back. It's taken that long for them to come back. He'll get 2 wins out of 4.
But has he always been a fan favourite?
I think he has because of Mr. Brightside.
I'm not sure it's
Mr. Brightside.
Classic song.
That energy and that atmosphere that they give you when you hit a 180 and things like that. I don't think it's so much being a fan's favourite for him. I think
you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have a crowd song.
Well, it's same like Van der Voort, isn't it?
Yeah, that song's abbreviated to Gary Anderson.
And Van der Voort's mid-30s in a world player. Do you know what I mean? There are fan favourites. There are people that like a crowd, but then there are fan favourites. Michael Van Gerwen and Gary Anderson are firmly in a fan favourite bracket. Peter Wright, people like his walk-on. There's no real song for him other than that.
Well, it's the same again, isn't it? It's Peter Wright, same as that. Because, darts fans like to be the same. I think this is huge. This is the thing. The fact that Nathan and Dimmy only need 2 wins, And I think, well, you think Asp's got to play Wadey and Dimmy's got to play right. So I would say at this moment in time, there are 2 points, personally, for each. Then they've either got to try and find 2 draws or 1 more win. That's it.
Jar, 10 minutes ago, you said Wadey beats Aspinall on night 2.
Yeah, then I changed my mind because I remembered that.
Now you've just given it as a 2-pointer.
Yeah. How things work on this show, guys?
It's not even from show to show, mate. It's not even from show to show. You've gone early.
I know. It's how these things work, Gob, on this show.
All I'm saying is, guys, I called MVG to finish top of the table weeks ago. You all laughed at me, but now it's looking great. Premier League done. Before we move on from the Premier League, we'll come into the chat room. Who do you guys, there's loads in there, you guys are absolutely on it today. So where are we? Peter says MVG, Dimmy, Jose, Johnny, Missy, Asp, De Souza, Dimmy, MVG, or Clayton. Yeah, on the fence there. Chris says MVG, Dimmy, Jose, and Johnny. Yeah, Raven Effect. Darren Cross, Ryan Anderson.
It is the top 4 if you look at it the other way around.
When the load fell COVID, they bring the eliminated one back. And he says MVG, Dimmy, Aspen, Clayton. Mace is in there. Mace says MVG, Dimmy, Jose, and Anderson. Mace has got Ando creeping in the back door.
I told you, Gando will find a way to finish. He loves the playoffs. Good evening, by the way, Chris.
I know he does, and I'm all up for Ando getting there, but the thing I've got with Ando is he will put in a decent performance against Johnny or get a result that he needs. He'll probably do the same against Michael Van Gogh, and then he'll fall off a cliff to Nathan Aspinall, where he only averages 18% on the outer ring. It would be the most Gary thing you've ever seen.
Adam says MVG, Dimmy, Asp, Clayton. Tommy's gone MVG, Dimmy, Clayton, D'Souza. There's a load of people on there, so it's interesting. I'm really quite intrigued by this. Thing is, though, Gob and I are going to. Are we both on the show on Monday, Gob? I can't remember doing what.
Mate, you did the bloody rotor. Don't look at me.
I can't remember it now. I can't remember it. That was months ago when I did. I feel like months ago when I did this rotor. He was on a Monday night.
Told to.
It's not it's not a bad life for you.
Turn up, look pretty, chat rubbish. Sorted.
You did well. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't chat rubbish, darling.
These are well-researched opinions and stats.
Moving on,
when
as
did we start
time
doing that on this show
is pressing us, some huge news today. The World Seniors is going back to the tavern. The inaugural World Seniors Championship will be at the hallowed Circus Tavern, and I can't freaking wait.
Me neither. I am booking it off as soon as possible. And I will be
for
there.
me, I appreciate, right? I appreciate that we've got a load of people in the chat room and a load of people that listen to us who will say the Lakeside is the home of world darts. Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay. But for me, in particular, as a 26-year-old lad who was very fortunate to have Sky Sports, this is the home of darts. Not the Palace, not the Winter Gardens, this place. It's been a bucket list place for me to go. It's home to the greatest game of darts ever played, and anybody who says otherwise, I will fight you. It is purely and simply for me the home of world darts. What's the sorry, God?
You said put them up then.
No, look, there was a lot of chat and whatever. and it has gone there. One of the common questions that came up on social media today, oh, why is it down south again? I don't mean this horribly, but there are no venues in the north with darts history that it could have gone to.
Apart from the Winter Gardens.
There's a reason it can't go there.
Well, yes, we know that, but we know that.
Also as well.
But yes.
Also as well, think logistically, a seaside town in winter does not make sense either.
What about
PDC went to Blackpool in the summer for a reason.
Where was the World Masters of here? Was it Preston Guildhall? Can't we use that?
I think the last time not being funny, but weirdly enough, the last World Masters to take place actually took place at that very venue.
Yeah. Look, I can tell you, Lakeside was in the running, and work it out why it's not there.
Is there something?
Not even that. At the same time, Jason Francis was talking about this on social media, on Twitter earlier, and then it takes off, and this becomes a tour instead of a one-off yearly World Championship. Lakeside will host an event. He's made that call.
Yeah. Look, Lakeside is pinning its hopes on the WDF having a World Championships. Brave.
Yep.
Will it happen? Possibly.
Very.
But, look, there was a TV tournament.
Mason, yeah, I was just going to say, Mason in the chat room, sorry to interrupt, Buzzy. Mason in the chat room here, he probably knows this better than most of us in the tavern. And obviously, Chris, forgive me if I don't remember correctly, but I believe you commentated on the World Masters as well the last time it was there at the tavern. Like, the memories that I presume that you've got of the venue, and it's particularly as well for a large number of those players in the field. You think of Phill Douglas, who won 11 of his 16 titles there.
Yeah, Mason's just put perfect venue for it. And that says it all. Look, this place will be absolutely rammed. Tickets go on sale the 1st of June, and it will sell out. No question whatsoever.
Completely agree.
Can
we run through the field? Because this is ridiculous, by the way.
One step ahead of you, son. One step ahead.
I've had it on a notes document in my phone ever since, and I've been writing a new name every time one's been announced, or putting little letters alongside the ones that I knew were yet to be announced. It is ridiculous. Is that updated? Podrick, no, Bob's still alive, mate. But yeah, he did front the BDO prize money last time it was at Lakeside. So the graphic is there. We have Phil Taylor, Martin Adams, John Part, John Lowe, Ted Hankey, Richie Burnett, Keith Della, Wayne Warren, Roland Sholton, Trina Gulliver, Bob Anderson, Paul Lim, Les Wallace, Tony David, Robert Thornton, Tony O'Shea, Trina Gulliver, John Walton, Peter Manley, Terry Jenkins, Andy Fordham, Kevin Painter, Daryl Fitton, and there are 2 qualifying spots available. The ambassadors are Francis Hurtler, Dennis Priestley, because his knee isn't going to allow him to play, and of course the one and only Mr. Bobby George.
How can you not have Bobby?
So, look, this is made for Bobby to dazzle, isn't it?
Oh, hugely. You know what? If there is a VIP section for this, I don't know. I haven't spoken. Obviously, haven't had a chance to speak with Jason Francis. But if there is a VIP section for this, the stories that Bobby will tell you in the VIP section.
Yeah.
I want a Bobby After Dark feature because he has millions of stories that just aren't quite suitable for before 9 o'clock. We couldn't put them on YouTube and monetize them because they would be taken down.
Some of them are
can we have like
get looked up.
Yeah, I was about to say we can't even with the Bobby George after dark we couldn't do that, could we? Not even with the post watershed Bobby George.
We'll create an OnlyFans for Bobby George dart stories.
OnlyFans Bobby George. That'd be great.
He just get his nipple out occasionally.
I don't forget as well. The big thing as well is this, that anybody who is over 50 will be able to go and try and qualify for this event. Anybody who hasn't got a PDC tour card. So those last 2 spots are open for anybody. Could be some huge names. Could be your player that you play down the local with. The announcement, I think, is the 13th and 14th of November is the qualifiers, but it is open to anyone. So so I know some of our older viewers that do watch this. Thank you very, very much. Get practicing, because you could be up on that stage playing Philip Douglas, playing the Count, playing Paul Lim, John Parr, Martin Adams. Huge names. Peter Dart Manley, for Christ's sake, as well. Get yourself practicing.
Yeah. Going back to what you said, Jar May says, stacked with history for the modern game. Just fits perfectly for the seniors. And as you said, goes on the road. Lots of great venues around the UK will be used. Yeah, look, completely. The only not downside to this, because obviously it's all ifs, buts, and maybes, but how good would this have been with Eric and Jockey in as well?
Huge.
Could you have imagined?
It would have been amazing.
Let's be honest.
But they'll be watching it from the darts. I'd say they'll be watching it for the darts box in the sky, won't they, God? And they'll be watching it, looking down on it, having a great time.
The only other thing that I can say about this is, if COVID hadn't have come around and this still came around at this time, Jar's favourite ever player would be in this field too. I
completely agree with you.
And it wouldn't have been played out on them dodgy Paddy Power 1st to 7 things on the soft tip boards. We wouldn't have seen it a couple of times put together over lockdown. And this would be being billed as a chance to see Taylor versus Barney again as well, including the quality in the rest of this field.
But
that's mad.
Think about this though, Gob, and it's a genuine. Look, piss taking. You know what I'm like when it comes to Barney. We all know on this channel, right? Serious hat for a second here, right? Again, I don't know how much everybody's getting paid for that between them and the promoter, but you think about this. If Barney could get a guaranteed sum of money to come and play in this, and be able to wear all the sponsors that he has on his shirts, that's not, and all this sort of stuff. There's loads of them, but he has to obviously take them off for when he's playing matches. If he can wear all those sponsors and get a guaranteed sum of money to come and play against this lot and potentially play against Phill Taylor in a final, you don't think he's going to try and take that away from me? He's going to try and do that rather than having to qualify for TV events to try and get onto TV and then try and get back up into the World 32 and all this sort of stuff. You've hit the nail on the head. I think if this is not just a one-off event, and we hope it isn't, but if it isn't just a one-off event, and we think it won't be, I will be very surprised if within a year or two, a certain 5-time champion Dutch dart player will not be in this event.
Just a quick one, John. What you said there. No one is getting appearance money for this. They are literally playing for prize money. The prize fund is set out, so no one is on appearance fees. This is, you get what you put into this.
Yeah,
that's interesting. That might change.
Bobby aren't playing, mate, because they'd be all over it if they got paid to go up and chuck a few darts. But the fact this is serious competition, they just cannot commit to compete at the standard that they want.
That's why there's 25 grand for the winner. Serious prize money.
That's more than last year's BDO Worlds.
Exactly that. Yeah.
It's just a fact.
Yeah.
But
Couple in the
how
chat
excited
room,
is
you
everybody
know.
else in the chat room? About to say, the chat room looks absolutely buzzing for this as we are. And of course, don't forget, everybody, very, very fortunate to be the official media partner for this. We will be building up to this throughout the next year, interviewing all the players, getting involved. Philip will be interviewing players when we can, leading up to those 4 days when we will be at the Circus Tavern, having a great time and bringing you all the action from the venue.
Oh, we've got some unreal shoulder content planned for this. Don't worry about that. Couple in the chat room asking, it's the 3rd to the 6th of February 2022. Tickets go on sale from the 1st of June this year. And I assure you, if you want to go, get in early because this will sell out. I've got no question about that whatsoever. There was a couple others about it as well. Let's see, where were we?
You
When's
will
it
get
happening?
priority
Done that.
tickets if you sign up to Bobby George's OnlyFans.
That is not true. We should stress that now.
It's like PDC
Not yet, anyway, at
TV,
least.
but for pensioners.
Oh, don't worry. I think it's a great idea. Bobby Jordan's fans only has got legs. Believe me. This has legs.
I think it would do. I think it could do. I think we could do. You know, £10 a month to hear Bobby George tell stories that we can't broadcast. I'd love that now.
But at the same time, look, the names being banded around for people that could potentially compete in the qualifiers and names that have been missed out. The fact that there's such a list of established players that haven't snuck into this, or there's talk of players coming out of retirement, the likes of Magnus Carris, to play in the qualifier, or potentially when this grows, because like we said, this is a 24-man field for this event. Next year, if this becomes a tour, or there becomes more events, there will be more opportunities for different players to get involved and then qualify for a world championship once again. This will get off the ground massively, absolutely guaranteeing that. And also, I really, really rate the work Jason France has done, not just because we're on board of it, but in terms of the World Senior Snooker, that now has qualification for the main tour, etc. At the very top end, don't get me wrong, some of the players are struggling, and it's not the greatest of watches. Dennis Taylor finally retired and hung up his cue after the back end of this year. But look at the players that are about to potentially drop off the Pro Tour or the PDC Tour in a couple of years. Look how many players have won world titles or peaked towards the end of their career. Steve Beaton, Peter Wright, Gary Anderson. We've seen Ronnie Hybrex drop off recently. Simon Whitlock is in a similar age category. Wayne Warren has just won a world title at his age. Peter Wright did exactly the same. This is just going to be even bigger and better. If these guys now have a home to play in, where they don't have to go up against the youngsters week in, week out in a leisure centre in Wigan or Barnsley, and there's still a chance for them to make money doing this alongside exhibition work, this is going to be massive.
Huge.
Yeah, completely agree. Also, Henry asked about the format. Don't think it's completely finalised yet, but it will be set play, like it was when they won their world titles, everything like that. It will be set play. Jason Francis has already said that. So
be set play. More set play is needed. More of this. More of this. I'm so happy. You just made my night, Philip.
Yeah, it is set play, and I genuinely cannot wait.
As well, we've just been talking about other players. You think about it now. Jose's not far off. He's 47. He's number 11 in the world. You think about that. I mean, you think of the likes of. Ian White's just turned 50. So there's some big names that could come off as well. You think of Merv, for Christ's sake. Merv's been there and been around the block that many times. It's been ridiculous. Oh, see more Mervyn King? Yes, please. That's 55, for God's sake, and he's still at the peak of his powers at the moment. Made 2 major finals last year. Made 2 major finals, in November and then in January. He's right up there. I'd love to see more of this.
Yeah, no, I agree. Completely agree.
Nothing's wrong with 40. Nothing's wrong with 47. We're saying that obviously you have to be over 50 and not have a PDC tour card here. So hopefully, once this gets off the ground fully, it's very much like the seniors tour in the snooker golf, isn't it? Where you can transfer onto that tour, can't you?
Well, look, the interview that Phill did with Matt Porter the other day, the PDC aren't involved in this initial outing. But if this goes well, if this takes off, and if the standard is good enough, there is a possibility that this event becomes affiliated with the PDC or the World Seniors Darts Tour, as it sits currently. Once it grows, becomes affiliated or connected with the PDC, and there are routes for players either into the main PDC World Championship or as a tour card holder. That's massive.
Huge. Massive.
No, I am with you. But can't stop still. Plenty to talk about. Huge week for amateur darts as well. It's something that we're not going to neglect on the show. We are going to talk about it when and if it comes up. And we've got a couple of slides here. Almost 50 UK MAD ranking events now available, Gob. People were on the fence with this, saying, was it just about belts and people, the bigger names playing on streams? This shows that it's not. And now that lockdown is starting to ease, we're starting to see what MAD is all about. And nearly 50 is a huge amount.
Yeah, it is. It's massive. And look, we're seeing this from all scopes. At the start of lockdown and that sort of thing, the BDO and such was in complete disarray. Since then, we've seen the WDF not merge, but take a bigger step up in the managing of the grassroots darts. It's more traditional from the BDO. We've seen MAD come out of nowhere, and we've seen a new county board in the UKDA. To have 50 ranking events affiliated to this is massive. And like you said, people were sceptical that at the very, very top end, it was all about the belts and players that were sort of between the tour earning a bit of coin. There's opportunities for that at that end, yes. But this is a program that is going to help everybody. And the fact that MAD and the UKDA now working together, the county players will get ranking points and affiliation through that, which hopefully means Super League does as well. This is just going to filter everywhere. Communication, working together, lots of events. Look, lockdown and COVID have been absolutely dreadful for a lot of people and a lot of things. But in terms of grassroots dart structure, having a period of a year to 18 months when nobody could play grassroots darts gave the sport an opportunity to get its house in order.
Yeah.
It gave a chance for... The BDO is historically a massively significant organisation, but it has had its time. The last World Championships were an absolute farce. Everybody knows the story of that. Everything else that was going on behind the scenes, and it's not just on Des Jacqueline. It has been coming for a long time. And there was a little bit of a power struggle right at the start of the county system and that sort of thing. I think it's gone to the right people. Completely new, fresh outlook. The BDO were competing, the Tri-Nations were competing. If you look who was behind the Tri-Nations, some of them are the guys that started the downfall of the BDO that then got passed on to a couple of other people. That's why I didn't take off. There's so much politics in the sport. It's ridiculous. And the power struggle was massive. But we've come out of that the other side. 50 ranking events. People are going to play darts. In the UK, you can set foot in a pub today. Inside. Hospitality is reopening. That is where the majority of darts venues are. I can go and play pool and snooker. I haven't, but I can. We are on the way back, and now we get the opportunity to see what these organisations can do. And like I said, having that break when nobody could actually play darts, they can set everything up. Now we get the opportunity to see what they're made of when these things take off, because there will be teething problems. 100%. There will be the early events that perhaps don't quite go as well as they can do. They'll have people with experience and different backgrounds and that sort of thing involved. But you just have to give these things time. It's completely new for everybody. You're going to get people that are stuck in the ways. You wouldn't have had this with a county run open or when the BDO are in charge. Yeah, but you would have had different things going wrong. That's how sport works. We're not going to see any phantom names and redraws at the Masters. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, completely agree.
In particular, when you think about this in particular, everything's going to build up to that big weekend at the end of the year, just before the World Championships get underway. More than likely. You think about it, going down to, I mean, we talked about going to a seaside resort in the winter, going down to bloody Selsley. It is what it is. We'll be there, but it will be bloody freezing. There's no doubt about that in East Sussex. But you think about it, that Friday, you got the European Amateur Open with 30k prize fund and a 10k first prize. To do that, you've got to win a Pro Tour. You've got to win a Pro Tour to go and get that sort of money. You think about that. You think about the Mad Golden Gauntlet, another 10 grand prize fund, and that Mad Golden Gauntlet as well. You've got the pairs events. There's going to be an expo involving with Modus. It's going to be singles events and all that sort of stuff. £2,000 worth of money for the winning an event. I'll be bold in saying this, Gob. You could probably tell me otherwise. There aren't many events now in amateur darts that are paying £2 grand to winners, never mind 10. And also ladies stuff, and the JDC as well. So it's huge. Tell me if I'm wrong in terms of the amount of paying, but that is a decent amount of money to go and do it for a day's work, go and earn £2 grand.
Absolutely bang on. And I picked up my darts 10 years ago. That was the first time I started playing. Before that, I played football all my life, was very, very reluctant to go and do anything else because I was playing football. I'd rode for a bit on the side. I'd played basketball. I'd literally tried my hand at any sport I could get hold of. I played pool at county level, had a couple of international trials as well. If I'd picked up, I'm almost annoyed that I'm the age that I am. I wish that I had the time over again for these systems to be in place. Something like a JDC Academy. The amount of opportunities from the very, very bottom rung of darts there are now to progress is ridiculous. I went to the development tour having never played a youth county game, having barely been to an open, playing in local league and playing at university level. And even that's growing. I just wish I could have that time over again, because I tell you what, I'd make a damn better go of it as a player if I had that over again.
Oh, completely. I was the same. I played county youth, and that was all we had. We had some youths in BDO events and things like that, but there was nothing back then. So this is huge.
And let's be honest, if your county youth side was short, you'd phone up a mate from school and see if they're available last minute to stand there and chuck a 14 single dart average. Just so you didn't forfeit the game, because you were better off chucking someone on stage than nothing else. There's competition for county youth places nowadays.
Yeah.
We're seeing the likes of the WDF put on Europe Youth Cup and England Darts Organisation and all of the like of that, putting youth into these events. The UKDA did a match with the Northern Ireland Darts Organisation at the weekend where they did the committees and that sort of thing. And they involved some youth players as well. They are the absolute future. There is as much interest right now in youth darts as there is women's darts. And they are both growing exponentially. It's brilliant.
Well, you think about, genuinely, the amount of people that, I appreciate it's not necessarily amateur, but you think about the amount of people who have sat with us in the chat room saying, are you going to be streaming the Dev Tour, doing updates on that? Are you going to be streaming the Challenge Tour and in particular? But in particular, the Dev Tour. The Dev Tour is probably the most exciting places to go and watch, for me, one of the darts at the moment. The amount of quality coming through is mad. As is Mad at the moment. Mad is doing really good stuff for the setup, and I think it's going to be even more incredible. You think about that Bream Family Open, the festival down in obviously down near Burnham-on-Sea. Are we still going for a weekend at Gary's, PB? We're still doing that.
Whilst we're there, we'll stay on Mad as well. Patrick, if you're in the chat room, you might have some more information and pop up and answer it. But this was also came out over the weekend as well, that Mad is moving as well into continental Europe. As it stands, the Netherlands, Belgium and Luxembourg all involved in the Mad program, taking it forward. A lot of people, again, were sceptical, saying this wouldn't work in Europe. It looks as if it's on the move.
Again, it's natural progression. New things need to start somewhere. You need to put yourself a foundation. You cannot launch something worldwide. Every sport in the world has started in one country and spread. every organisation in the world has started in one country and spread. You move into different regions and territories. You have to give it a chance. And the people behind it are English. Steve Brown knows the UK system. Perfect place to set it up and then move it to other hotbeds. And that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, Patrick says, yes, correct. Rach, good evening as well. Just joining us in the chat room. Yeah, look, I think this is massively exciting times for MAD, the way it's spreading and everything like that. But also, as well, some more news in the amateur game. The WDF, as well, in the last week, has also said that they ranking the tournaments will recommence from June 2021. Denmark Open getting us underway. Big news that we've got two amateur organisations now able to put on ranking events.
What do you think?
It's not even them putting on ranking events. It's not them putting on the ranking events. It's people and organisations putting on ranking events that are then affiliating to these networks. It's an opportunity for the WDF to put on something at the end. The fact that they're mentioning their ranking event means one thing and one thing only, Phil. And we discussed this earlier about the use of Lakeside. The WDF still have very, very strong intentions to host a World Championship.
I agree, they do.
And this is where the waters can get a bit murky. Because, like I said, I've played pool for a while, 13, 14 years now. I've been involved at county and trialled at international level. And this is where it gets murky. When you have multiple organisations claiming to have a world champion. There are 6 different world champions in English pool. You just get laughed out the door. The PDC will always be the professional world champion. The fact that the BDO clung onto the professional title for so long is quite frankly ridiculous, especially the way it was going. But it gave them marketing and marketability and all that sort of thing. So you can't begrudge the BDO for clinging onto it when things are going down because they still have that name. And it's a one-up on the PDC. But having a WDF world champion, having a MAD world champion off the back of their rankings, plus all the belts and things they've got as well, just could get a little bit murky. And that's my concern.
You think about...
Fantastic, we have all these systems, right? But we cannot have 4 different world champions.
Well, about to say, Gob, you think about this in terms of... Because I will happily bow down to you when it comes to the amateur game. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, the Dutch Darts Open... September the 3rd to the 5th. That's huge as well. That's a nice way to kick things off. One of the most ridiculous, one of the biggest darts tournaments in the world. There's no doubt about that. Then you've got the England Open, the Denmark Open, the British Open, the Welsh and Irish Open, and then it's the World Masters at the back end of December. At the moment, they still don't have plans for a World Championship yet. I don't know whether Lakeside are going to be happy to host something in 2022. There hasn't been an announcement as such that there will be a World Championship. So you think that at this moment in time, obviously the PDC will always have their world champion, but MAD will also have their world champion belt. Now, if you come in there and say, right, this is the amateur world champion, as it were, people are going to go, well, hang on a minute, MAD's been there before, they've done more than you. And it's that, like you say, that the waters can get ridiculously murky. I don't dislike what the WDF are doing. It's massive for the game. Of course it is. But at the same time, you just have to worry that what they might be doing is hemorrhaging the interest a little bit. And I don't know whether it would be best for MAD and the WDF to come together and go, what can we do to make this more simple for everybody to understand?
I genuinely think we may get to that situation in the future. I don't think they're going to merge, but there will be a power struggle. If I'm the PDC as well, by the way, I am massively concerned that multiple different organisations fronting the world champions will slightly dilute mine as well. I know they're the be-all and end-all and the absolute top dogs.
I don't think that
But having
from
four
where the
other
PDC
people
are now.
at the minute, there are already 5 darts world champions. You already have the PDC world champion, the PDC world youth champion, the BDO world champion, the BDO ladies world champion, and the JDC world champion. We're soon going to have the seniors world champion, the WDF world champion, the MAD world champion.
It's like
4 different MAD belts.
Yeah, but God, it's like
Plus all your
okay. So
regional
I come back. I come back to the boxing though. I come back to boxing though, just because there's about we talk about the fact that AJ's got 3 of the 4 major world title belts: the WBA, the IBO, and the WBF. Just because Fury's got the WBC does not make them anything less of a world champion. It's the same in snooker. There might be other. I presume there's a youth tour in snooker. You'd probably be more clued up on it than us. But with that, and there's always a seniors world champion. Does it mean that whoever wins the world title at the Crucible is not a world champion? I think that.
No, but at the same time, look at what does happen in boxing. Boxing was the perfect example and the worst example for what you're trying to get across, because all 4 of them fight for power to prove that their belt means more. Try and force a mandatory on somebody earlier. The model for what it does works. But at the same time, there is still a power struggle between the 4 boxing federations.
There is.
And I can see similar happening with WDF and MAD.
Yeah, look, the PDC, forget them. The world champion, that's the holy grail, to be the PDC world champion.
Correct.
But then filtering down, having world champions at youth level, I'm all for that. I don't have an issue with that at all. But I like where MAD have gone with the World Championship setup, and they've gone on the UFC stroke boxing way of doing it. And I like that, personally, because with the BDO stroke, how we think the WDF are going to do it, there's a World Championship once a year. Now, you might be unlucky and be out of form. You might be injured. Might not be able to play for whatever reason, and then you've got nothing for a year. Where doing it this way, the belt is on the line. So you defend your title, which, look, I like it. The same as at boxing, you've got your Southern Area titles, you've got your regional MAD titles, you've got a European title. I like the setup of what MAD have done with it. I really do.
I agree with that, because there are levels to this game. There are levels to every sport. And at the lower level, that absolutely works fine. But like I said, the issue is when we're going to have 4 different world titles, because the next conversation will be, we need a champion. The PDC don't want that.
Well, so
might invite everyone to the Grand Slam. There might be an affiliation. That's exactly where I picked it up from. But the PDC don't want that. The PDC are the absolute top dog boys. They don't want to have to then go and pit their guy up against 4 or 5 different others, because if the unthinkable happens and they lose, how damaging is that for them? They don't want anything to do with this. They want one other amateur world champion that they could drop in to the Grand Slam occasionally through a sustained proven route to get them there.
Not occasionally. Not occasionally. I think that world champions realistically should get a spot at the Slam, because it makes it interesting. Although I've always said that a major can't be a major if it's if places are invited. However, I think that it makes the Slam more interesting that way.
But then flip the coin, and I use boxing as the narrative here, because look, people might not like it, but Logan Paul KSI, Logan Paul Floyd Mayweather, whether you agree with it or not, that cross content, as it did with the first one, the one in Manchester, and then they went to the Staples in LA, those 2 YouTubers sold more tickets and more pay-per-view numbers than some regular boxing world champions do. Now, in a perfect world, 4 or 5 years down the line, you could do the WDF, forget the PDC, look, they're out on their own. Look, forget them. But from a cross-content point of view, you pit the current MAD world champion against the WDF world champion. that is great cross content. People are consuming content differently.
It is for fans. It's massive cross content for fans, perhaps. Completely agree. It's a nightmare for both organisations.
Yeah, but if the numbers add up and you can sell enough tickets or sell enough pay-per-view, however you do it, even if it's a streamed event, because people look at streamed events and cringe now where they shouldn't be. The streaming quality is immense. Look at some of the stuff that Luke do and Matron do streaming-wise. You could do that on YouTube as a pay-per-view. And if the numbers add up, they couldn't care less. It's great content.
The numbers add up,
and it's great branding for both organisations.
Organisation for 3 months. But a yearly world champion versus world champion puts you in the shadow if you're the losing side. If I'm the WDF and my world champion loses to Mad, I spend the next year in Mad's shadow. Because people will be saying their system is better because they produced a better world champion.
You think about it, when at the time, yeah, Barney did Barney beat Taylor in '99? I can't remember in that Clash Champions.
No, Taylor did him over royally.
Right. So okay. So you think about that in '99. At the time, you would say that the PDC was still behind the BDO at the time in terms of quality. It was only really the outset of it was probably 2007 when 2006 when Barney switched. As soon as Barney switched, that was it. People just looked at the BDO as to say, right, I've done my time in the amateur game. I'm now going to go off and I'm now going to go and play. It doesn't. So what my point is this: is that just because that you lose that 1 year, you may win the next year. It will flip between the two. And as Barzi makes sense. Yeah, thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you, Tommy, as well. I was only 5 years old at the time, so couldn't really remember. So off the back of that, you play against each other. 1 year, Mad might win. The next year, the WDF might win, and it increases the competition, which should only be a good thing for people who are looking to who are at that top level, who are looking to get into the PDC. Surely.
Yeah. Just Henry says the issue is the WDF will have one world champion and Mad might have 2 or 3. No, look, Mad will only have one world champion at the time. So you say, right, for argument's sake, the head-to-head happens on June 1st. So whoever is the champion in the build-up to that, because they're pretty set when their title defences are going to be, whoever is the champion goes into that head-to-head. That's the way I do it. And then the content you could have around that, proper trash talking presser, it would be just generally great TV.
Chris makes a very good point, to be fair. And he says he got stuff and then I stuffed him 2 months later. Chris, would you genuine question as well for Mason? We should have got him on, really. Let's be honest about it when we talk about this now. But when obviously you moved over to the PDC, when do you think the sort of switch to people understanding the PDC was a more dominant organisation? Because I still maintain that the BDO world particularly had its standing in it before Barney moved on. I'll always maintain that, but it's an interesting to think from a man who's played in the PDC his pretty much most of his career, you know. So Chris, it would be great if you could speak to us about that. If you could leave something in the chat room, we'll come to that. But yeah, look, it's an interesting concept. I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes off of amateur darts because it's massive. It's hugely important for the game. Massive.
Yeah, it's huge, and look, I'm just doing it as pure as a content. It'd be unbelievable for us. Someone's just asked, who's top of the WDF ranking? I'm just trying to look at that. So, as it stands, bearing in mind that there's been no competitive darts, this is when it was last played. Wayne Warren tops the WDF order of merit and is also the Mad World Champion.
It's just not going to sit though, is it? If one suddenly jacks up their prize money and if their world championships are very close in date or whatever, or one suddenly jacks up their prize money halfway through a season and you lose your biggest asset, it's just going to get nasty. There's going to be a point where things like the clause that went in the BBO contract, where if you finish in the top 4, you can't go to Q school. There has to be, because these organisations have to protect their own interests. Chris mentioned about the WDF number 1 or world champion being given a tour card. If you're WDF, that's suicide. Gives your name a bit more, right? But then you lose your biggest marketing piece for the next year in the build-up to every event. You never have a defending world champion because they're gone. They're playing in the PDC, the big boys.
But if you're the amateur game, that's what you want. You want people to progress into the professional game. If you're genuinely concerned about the amateur game and what's best for the amateur game, you want your best players to progress into that PDC, into that tour card, into that 128. Yeah. If you don't,
but I also
then you
need
are not doing
top quality players to stick around. I need top quality players to stick around to make my product viable. I can't go to a broadcaster every year to put a world champion on if every year my standard is getting worse because the best players are buggering off. We've seen it happen once before. The BDO model of televised darts went downhill. Because the quality is not there anymore.
Which is why I'm not convinced the WDF format will work, because it's just replicating the BDO, which failed miserably. Right now, as we look at it, what's going to be different between the BDO and the WDF right now?
Nothing. The people at
not been run by Des Jackson for a start.
Yeah, look, don't get me wrong. Des wasn't great, but the rot setting miles before Des was even elected.
Oh, no, look, I agree.
Yeah.
Look,
and the other issue I've got is...
the knotweed was in the garden. The knotweed was in the garden.
This has been going for 20, 30 years in the BDO. The WDF have been there the entire time. Why are they not stepping before?
But this is the thing, though, right? You talk about the WDF. The WDF is there for amateur darts. It doesn't matter that your product's getting worse, because your product won't get worse. Because even if someone does go and wins the World Championship and then goes off to the PDC, you still got players at the top of the game who will go and fight for the opportunity next year. They're not going to lose standard playing against other people at their level to then potentially go up into the 128.
Disagree. Because then every single broadcast you have where you go to that following year's World Championship final, you have to mention that your best players disappeared or that some of the players have progressed onto the PDC and they're not playing anymore. You admit the work you're putting on, despite it being for amateurs, but your product's inferior.
Yeah, but if you want to look after the amateur game, and that's what I mean. If you don't want that, and you stop players going, you're not looking after the amateur game properly and how it should be.
Correct.
No, you should be trying to
at the same time,
players onto that 128.
Who's going to come through the WDF system?
This is why I'm not convinced it works.
Because when the BDO system was first established, there was no JDC, there was no Dev Tour, and there was barely a Challenge Tour. So not only have you got to go and admit you're the amateur game, but you've also got to get people involved in your side of the game and keep them there, rather than just going straight through the PDC channels. If your ambition is to end up in the PDC, why are you going to do it through the WDF when you're playing Challenge Tour because you've probably already been to Q School, or you're playing County and getting ranking points just for turning up every week with UKDA?
That's why I don't.
Ultimately, there is going to be too many world champions. There's going to be too many world champions. It's not
the WDF system will work because within MAD, stroke the JDC, they're run by the same. So if you're on the JDC tour, you're going to get pushed into mad, right? Not every kid that comes through the JDC is going to be a professional, but they still need somewhere to play. So they'll get pushed into mad by the JDC. So the links.
Mark says just sorry, Barzy. Mark says just create a European Super League or something. That'll sort it out. I like that. Definitely. But no, look, I don't know whether the WDF's current guys is going to work. I know there are people on Twitter saying that they're the saviours of the amateur game. I don't think they are. It might be out. Well, I'm just saying there are people that I've seen on social media suggesting that they are the saviours of the amateur game. I just don't think they are. I think that, as you said, Barzy, I think the mad way of doing things at the moment is probably the best way to do things.
Completely. Well, that was exciting. Right, guys, it's that time. Chat room is open as well. Get your questions in and fire them across.
20 minutes. That's
spicy.
all we've got time for tonight. Yeah, we got 20 minutes. Barely even that. Patrick, the good question is we keep talking about the WDF. He says 128 in the WDF. So if you win the WDF and the top 16 qualify for the PDC cards, bottom 16 of the season in PDC relegated to the WDF. But the only big thing about that, whilst that's a decent idea, the only thing about that is two reasons. One, Eddie ain't never going to go for it. B, if he did go for it, Barry would tell him, you're not doing it. Because Q School makes far too much money for the PDC. Not happening.
Q School makes money and Challenge Tour makes money. 20 years ago, when the Challenge Tour, etc., didn't exist, an amateur organisation affiliation would have been absolutely perfect. The PDC got fed up with the BDO. They didn't take Barry's offer for money. There was no chance for them to work together apart from the Grand Slam. The PDC have their own progression routes in place. They don't need any of these other organisations. It all sounds brilliant and, yeah, let's merge them all and let's all work together. It's just not going to happen because the PDC are there to make money. And the other organisations need to make money to be able to support the amateur game. You can't expect people to travel to Denmark and reaches of the world to play in their world champion, to be one of 6 world champions, to then lose them the following year. It's not sustainable as a business model, even if it's charitable or for the amateur game.
Where Owen says, I think I'm right in saying the start of the World Series is the 3rd of February, clashes with the Premier League. Yes, it does. Will the PDC move it? You've got more chance of finding Rocking Horse than the PDC moving. Dates are set. The Motorpoint Arena will host the opening night of the Premier League on the 6th.
No, on the 3rd.
Sorry, on the 3rd, yeah. Finals on the 6th.
As you said before, Barzy, you've got more chance of me shitting on the Queen's bed.
Exactly. Somebody says, should the match play go back to 2 clear and no sudden death? Yeah, look. Yeah. 100%.
Just
yes.
I'd love it, but it'd just be too long. Remember
that?
No, was it Hybrex? Was it Hybrex a game where they went for no sudden death leg and you went off for some food and you came back and that game was still going on?
Yeah, it has to be 2 clear. I don't like that. Yeah, completely. Creates drama.
There's too much money on the line for those events to effectively lose it on the bullseye, which is done on a completely different board.
Yeah, I'm all for. Oh, Simon says, best one-hit wonder in darts.
Sheesh.
Best one-hit wonder.
Larry Butler?
Close.
Peter Everson.
I mean, Cappy's not a bad shout, to be fair.
Tony David.
Yeah.
Cappy's got to be up there. Well, he was World Youth as well, wasn't he?
Yeah. I mean, Kirk Shepherd was a good shout from Owen as well.
Kirk Shepherd's an unreal shout. And he's also bloody hilarious.
He's one of the best people you'll ever meet. Well, Would you say Jamie Lewis as well making that semi-final?
No, he had back-to-back years.
Did he go quarter-final, semi-final?
Yeah.
No, he didn't go quarters, did he? Didn't go quarters.
So. He had 2 good runs back-to-back. And actually, him and Kyle Anderson, when Kyle was climbing to top 32 and his career high of 20, I think he got to, Jamie Lewis was right with him for a large period of that time. Those two were like next to each other in the rankings for about 18 months, no matter how high or low they went.
Henry's just pulled one out here as well. Christian Kist, great shout.
Yeah, not a bad shout there. Oh no, he made the 4th round rather than quarter-final. Lost to Chizzy. That's fair enough. I mean, Nico,
Great shout.
I wouldn't call him a one-hit wonder. No, I wouldn't.
No, again, Nico got to the quarter-final of the Worlds.
Butler's definitely a shout.
I'm playing World Cup.
You think you got?
World Cup.
I think you've got. I think you got Christian Kiss, Larry Butler, and Corey Cadley. Probably the top 3 of them. What else did I say? Should this is a question from. Oh, hang on, where is it? Peter says, "Do you think the winner of the World Senior should get a place in the World Championship?" No. You qualify for the World Championship on merit.
Not this year. If it takes off, yes.
No.
It's no different.
No.
Well, hang on a minute. It's no different to giving Diego the best Brazilian place and Devon the best South African place for the last 4 years.
Well, you get to qualify for that, don't you?
Yeah, they had the max top.
Yeah, but
Christopher Tajski, when he was World Masters champion, Christopher Tajski was just happy.
He was the highest Polish player. That's what happened.
The World Senior will be the highest player over the age of 50 without a tour card.
Should go in the Grand Slam. Don't play him in the World Championships. Don't put him in the World.
One or the other. A World Championship spot or a Grand Slam spot definitely is where I'd go with it.
Grand Slam, not the Worlds. Simple as that.
Richie George, what a shout that is for one-hit wonder, by the way.
Marshall James was there as well.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Marshall
I like that.
James. Scott Rand as well, maybe. Where else? Let's see. Where are we? Henry asks, which now the like to see return? Easy for me. Get me back to Vegas. Get me back to the Desert Classic. Oh, bye, Buzzy. Buzzy's gone. That's an interesting one.
He did just message us to get ready for a crash, but I thought we were all going to go.
Yeah. I thought, maybe we haven't, but
we're still on one-hit wonders.
Still on.
Where were we? Tournament to return?
Yes, tournament to return.
I want to see more pairs. Was there a world pairs? Peter Wright was a pairs champion at one point.
Someone's also asked as well in the chat room. Someone's asked in the chat room going, is there a pair? Can we see more pairs tournaments? I don't remember who that was. Who was it? It was Tommy, I think it was. Yeah. Tommy said that should be a pairs tournament. But shouldn't we see that more of that in the World Cup, though?
Yeah, look, I think
Hi everyone, sorry about that. I'm just getting the other guys back in now. My Mac had a funny 5 minutes, so just getting the others in. Hope everyone is still with us as always. Excuse the mess of my desk as well. Yeah, just sorting the others back out now, Missy. Don't worry about that. Why is it whenever you're going slow? Right, just getting the other guys back in there, guys. Thanks for. Right, there we go. Get some Brandon in the background as well, so we're all good. So back to question time and everything like that. Right, Gob's back in.
Oh, hello.
Oh, here we are, right? Gang's back together again. Just like magic, we're not there.
First time that we've had a crack during the show.
Yeah. To be fair, as I messaged you in the WhatsApp, I knew it was coming because my screen just froze. Even though I could see you two guys chatting around, so I'll just sit here and wait for it. It's fine. But we're back.
Sorry, everyone. Do you know what? Should we stick around for a few more minutes because we can try and get some more questions in?
We'll go for 5 minutes.
Got nothing better to do.
Where were we? What was the last question?
And the last question I heard was about more pairs, and then I lost you.
Yeah, more of that, please. More of this.
Completely.
More pairs, please. Do you think that's a British thing? Do you think that's we clamour for that sort of thing, whereas Americans would always prefer to look at
cricket,
the individual?
I'd love a
things
cricket
like the Ryder Cup and the Mosconi Cup and that, when they first started as events, the Americans won because they were better at those sports. But now you look at the way that Europe have bounced back with the Ryder Cup, you look at how they've dominated the Mosconi Cup for the last 10 years. I'm just using those as the two examples because the Europeans have learned to play as a team and build that atmosphere. Do you think that's a British thing, a European thing? I don't know how the Dutch do anything similar, etc. Is there any sort of other competitions like that? Do you think it would take off, or do you think that's just us being British wanting more events where we can get rowdy and bully people? Because we don't, in these sports, we don't tend to follow players as intently.
Yeah, quite possibly. I still love the Ryder Cup darts idea.
Well, Owen asked, do you want to have more pairs or more set play? More set play any day of the week. Love set play.
More pairs.
My favourite format of darts. Set play, not even.
But if you get too much of it, then you get bored of it. Too much set play and you'll be bored of it.
No, I don't. Look, I want
because then it just becomes a norm.
One more. Yeah, but I want one more set play tournament. I want a set play tournament alongside the rest of it.
Yeah, Mason's got a point there. I'd love to see the diathlon return. Yeah, I'd love to see maybe a cricket tournament, but I do love the idea of the Ryder Cup of darts, that kind of format, where you have an ex-pro as the captain and things like that. I do like that idea.
Do you know, the thing is, it's very matchroom. It is very matchroom to put together a team event, and I just don't understand why they haven't. And part of me thinks that now Eddie is taken over, that will be the next thing. Surely.
Yeah.
Get that bloke. Who was the bloke that played with John Part in Canada at the World Cup of Darts that one year? Who was absolutely sensational. What was his name again?
What, Dawson?
No, not Dawson. The absolute madman. Someone surely's got to know this in the chat room. I can't remember what it's going to be.
Something Norman Jr.?
Yes, my John Norman Jr.
What a hero.
Thank you. Yeah, Daniel goes with it. Yeah, John Norman. Thank you very much. Thank you. Absolute madman who would just literally every time he even hit a single treble going mental. Thank you very much, chat room. I couldn't remember it off the top of my head. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So should there be a tournament and another sort of a darts board? Yeah, we've always talked about it. Give me a Yorkie board all the way through. Absolutely. Mace talks about it and saying that commercially they'd be massive in America. Yeah, totally right. It would be huge in America. They love that shit. They love that shit in America.
Lap it up.
Yeah.
Will darts regulations ever change?
Don't think so.
I do.
The only thing that might change is
continue at the very, very top level to be over 100. If we're getting close to things like if we're getting close to things like 10-pin bowling, where you hit more often than you miss, something has to change.
I think the only thing that changed is points and things like that that could be banned.
Every single sport has to evolve. You look at basketball having a 3-point line. There's talks of a 4-point line in the NBA because of where they're just draining shots from at the minute. Golf are looking at restricting technology because the course just can't keep up. Football, we've added technology to it. The difference between what you can do now with sports science is ridiculous. There will come a time when darts gets too easy. The treble is not big. Will be used far more frequently in commentary.
If you could change one match-winning dart that was missed, what would it be? Oy. I know what God would choose. I know what God would choose, and it's not. And I don't think it would be even close.
Mm-hmm.
One match-winning.
I know what.
Double that was.
I know what one you changed, mate.
Draft gate.
I know which leg I'd change. And it would have been MVG's dart at double 12 for the second 9-darter. Because that would have been absolutely epic.
I know that I think that I'll tell you the reason why I'd change it is to stop this chat. Is to stop this chat happening. That Michael Smith will never win one. Those 3 match darts he had at 16s against Snakebite in the 2020 Masters. Because when he wins one, he's going to win a bucket load of them.
Yeah. May says Smith multiple times. Yeah, look, I don't disagree. I the one player that I can never begrudge a major would be Michael Smith, but I'd also love to have seen back-to-back 9-darters.
Gob, am I thinking in your correctness about what would be your the match dart you change?
James Wade against Adrian Lewis.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the one dart. I know you changed that without a shadow of a doubt. Because he would have won that world title, I think, against Andy Hamilton. Yeah. Oh, yeah, to be fair, James Smith makes a really good point. One dart to change would be the MVG hitting that double 18s average, the 137 against Michael Smith in the Premier League. That is a really good point.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was
one dart.
I like
16s.
Paul Lim hitting the 9-darter at Ali Pali.
Against Gary Anderson.
I was it.
That is the single one dart I would change.
That would have been incredible. The atmosphere in there would have been unbelievable.
Mace, McGeaney against Duzzer. Yeah, look.
Yeah. I think, look, people are saying the flukiest major winner as well. Probably might be the last thing.
You can't fluke a major win. You can fluke one game, but you can't fluke a whole tournament.
The only one I would say you could maybe, I don't class it, but you could maybe class it as this, will be crossing the World Championships 2018 because he had match darts on 3 occasions against him. It's the only time you could think about potentially calling that fluky. Potentially, I wouldn't call it that, but I could see why people might.
Yeah,
because he had match darts against. Yeah, match darts against. If memory serves correctly, against Michael Smith. Dimmy
Michael
came
Smith
back,
had
didn't
match
he?
darts.
Dimmy came back against him, and
I
MVG had multiple.
I don't think Dimitri had match darts. Michael had 5.
MVG had 6, didn't he?
5, I think. So he had 5 in the final leg.
Yeah, and he had another couple before then as well. That's the only one. That's the only one that you can maybe classify as a fluke, purely because he had match darts against him. That's it. But he had on multiple occasions. But I don't know. And Mason did make a very much a good point, saying that he did smash 107, did smash Taylor with a 107 in the most important game. That he did. That he did.
That's right.
I will give you that.
That's why I say you can't fluke a major win. You can fluke one game, but you can't fluke a whole tournament.
It's a Pro Tour. You can have a more fortunate run to a final, but still winning the Pro Tour still counts for something. I slagged up the German ones in the week, but actually still winning one is still an achievement. You still have to win 7 games against
top quality
top 160 players in the world, not 128, the top 160. Let's go with that.
May's talking about Snakey's win, obviously, in the Worlds. Look, bar the obviously the dart ball from Malik Dem.
Malik Dem had a match dart.
Did who else had a match? Did anyone else have a match dart against him?
I think it was only Malik Dem that had match darts.
Yeah, Deswan didn't have one, did he? Deswan didn't get a match dart at him.
Don't think Deswan did.
Right.
Michael didn't. Gezi didn't.
No. I can't think of anybody else that did. Gary, he wasn't playing Gary, was he? Nathan. Yeah, I can't think of anybody else that got one. Anyway, let's put it that way.
No, agreed.
Yeah. Right, I think that's where we end it tonight because it's been a bit of a mad show.
Yeah, and we've still gone over the 2 hours, even with the slight interruption halfway through. But you guys have been absolutely tremendous today.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Superb. Actually, there was one question. I don't know if we are or not. We'll let you know. Are we going to live lounge on Sunday instead of Monday?
I don't know because I'm working on Sunday, so I don't know yet.
We'll let you know in the next 24, 36 hours on social media. It's a good point because Premier League returns. And speaking of the Premier League return, we have everything covered for you here at Online Darts for the Premier League. Also, big news dropping tomorrow about the live league, so stay tuned for that as well. And believe me, it's good. Cannot wait for everything. So I want to thank you all. As always, make sure you drop us a subscribe as well. We've got the prize to give away at 10k subscribers, so make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn notifications on for us, and it is an absolute gem. But again, I've been Phill Bars, joined by Jack Gobby Garwood and Jarleth. And as always, give yourselves a huge round of applause, and we will see you all very, very soon. We've been the Live Lounge.